All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are. Thanks so much for joining in today's conversation, today's Shiksha Samvaad on that's really focused on evidence for the future of education. Quick comments on the chat as to how you are doing this Friday afternoon. Um, what's the top feeling? Are you tired, excited? Curious, what are we discussing today? What is going on in your minds right now? Mhm. Yes, I completely echo this feeling as well. Oh yeah, Ganpati weekend as well. And for those of you who are celebrating, I hope you have a great one. I echo all of your thoughts. Also, looking forward to listening to so many people who have joined us today and hearing about what else we could do together in education. With that, I'll get started very quickly. My name is Rucha. I lead CoLab and we have many other partners and organizations as part of today's conversation. I'm sure we'll get to know them as we go along as well. In introducing today's conversation, I'd like to start with a very short story as to why am I here today and why are all of us here today. And I'm sure some of you can resonate with parts of the story that I'm about to share with you. When I was growing up, my parents did two things that at that time didn't, seem all that different or important, but I reflect on that today. One is me and my brother, boy and girl, they sent us to good schools and made sure that we had very good education, and there was no, like for me, there was no holds on how far, how much I could study. The second thing that they did, and this is a story of what happened in a parent teacher meeting, is it's a typical parent teacher meeting, right? My teacher was sharing with my father, Rucha, she scored so much in science and she scored so much in math, so on and so forth. And my dad kind of stops her midway and he says, all of this is great. Like English and math and science is great. But tell me, how is she as an individual? Tell me, how is she interacting with her peers? Tell me, how is she interacting with her teachers? And the teacher was caught off guard a little bit, right? And so I reflect on that today. And when I look back, I don't know whether they did this consciously or unconsciously, but what they did was challenge two very deeply held norms in education, which is one, do girls need to study? How much do girls really need to study? What are they going to do about all of this studying? And two, is education all about marks? Is there more to education than how much she has scored in English, math, and science? Right? So, and now when I reflect back, I think that some of these norms are so deeply held in so many of our communities that we work with. And some of you may have also faced these either in a positive way or in a way that kind of challenged your growth. And I'm sure you see this in a lot of the communities that we work with as well. That is partially the reason behind how thinking about this conversation, thinking about how can we come together and look at some of these deeply held norms in education and what could we do about them. And one thing that plays a very big role in helping us challenge these norms is evidence. And then the storytelling that we do with this evidence. And I think that question is what's bringing us all together here in this conversation today that I'm really excited to hear about. With that, I'd love to introduce our moderator for the afternoon. We have Payal Jain, co-founder and CEO of Populi, joining us today. They work with nonprofits and donors to turn evidence into actionable insights, and we're all about that today. What I really, really admire about their work is not just the focus on evidence and research, but also how can this be really meaningful for the communities that we work with as well. So, with that, Payal, I hand it over to you and look forward to today's conversation.
Thank you so much, Ruchal. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am delighted to be here as part of the evidence, as a preview to the evidence conclave. Today's conversation is going to be centered on a very crucial theme that Rucha pointed out, which was this idea of what does evidence for the future of education look like? And what we're going to explore in today's conversation is what future readiness looks like for students in India's public schools. We'll also discuss with our panelists today what dominant beliefs we need to challenge as we go forward and we think about the future of education. And we will invite them to bring some evidence from the work that they're doing to help us think about outcomes in a different way. So I am delighted to be here, and it's an honor to moderate the session with such an inspiring panel. We have with us here on the panel today Eshwar Bandi from Inqui-Lab Foundation. We have Jayshree Oberoi from the Akanksha Foundation. We have Samyak Jain from Involve, and we have Sreya Mukherjee from Mantra for Change. Delighted to have you all here. And if you're okay, I'm going to just dive right into it. Okay, great. So I'm going to invite the panelists today to share with us briefly the work that you do and tell us a little bit about what future ready education means in your context. And if you like, if you want to share a little bit about what it looks like for the students that you work with, if you've seen how it has played out, then please feel free to add that as well. Can I invite Shreya to start us off?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here, and hello everyone. So I am representing my organization Mantra for Change today, and at Mantra for Change, our mission is to enable enriching learning experiences for children by enabling educational leaders to drive school level improvements. Uh, we do this in a lot of ways, but we do this mostly through partnerships with bodies like the Ministry of Education, different state education departments, and other civil society actors, where we co-develop pathways for meaningful change that we will see at school and at classroom levels. For this, we run multiple school level improvement programs at various scales, some district programs, some state programs. And these school level improvements vary from something like school leadership clubs, student clubs, student cabinets, project based learning methods in classroom. And these needs of what program to do where generally emerges from the geography that we are working in and the unique context of the geography where we work. One of our consistent interventions on this journey has been the project-based learning program, where we have been enabling teachers across middle schools in various geographies like Bihar, Nagaland, MJP Society schools in Andhra Pradesh, and social welfare schools in Odisha. We enable teachers to use project-based learning pedagogy in classroom in subjects like science, math, and language. Speaking of future readiness and what that means for us, what we're working towards, we feel that using methods like project-based learning usually put students in the driver's seat of their learning, where they are sort of engaging with problems in the real world, with hands-on projects that are mapped to their grade level learning outcomes, as well as which sort of enable them to gain core competencies that are related to different subjects. What future education means for us is equipping students with what we call 21st century skills. So we want them to collaborate, we want them to think creatively, we want them to think critically, to question, to not be passive recipients of information, to really engage with each other, engage with the world around them, and basically gain skills which we now name 21st century skills. So we don't want students to just, score high on their papers or on their subjects, but just as Rucha's dad wanted to know from the teacher, we also want them to engage with the world and become, well-rounded, socio-emotionally well-rounded, democratic, rational human beings.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Shreya. Can I ask Jayshree to please come in?
Hello, everyone. I'm representing Akanksha Foundation here. It's been about 15 years. Been playing with multiple roles, being a school leader, school principal, established a school, and after that moved into other roles. Uh, Akanksha, and I was just connecting with Shreya's vision for students. Akanksha's vision has also been to equip students with the knowledge, skills, and values they need to lead empowered lives. And it becomes so much more powerful or important to when we work with children from underprivileged background, and challenge that belief, challenge that societal norm or understanding of what children can achieve. When you have a combination of this, when you have dedicated effort from both parents, teachers, and students themselves, all of this can come together to lead empowered lives for all of these children. And that is what Akanksha has been working on. We have what we call this as a proof model. So 26 schools in PPP, public-private partnership model across Maharashtra with 5 municipal corporation. Currently, we have 14,000 plus students and over 5,000 alumni. And our alumni and current their careers, roles, various studies they are pursuing across the world, uh, you know, uh, give us that confidence and that evidence that good and quality education can make a difference to child's life. And I connect that a lot with my own personal life. And I would love to share here that, when I was hearing the story, which I was talking about, it's um, long back, 45 years ago, my mother challenged that and said, a girl from underprivileged background, from a farming background, can change, and with the right kind of education and parent support, things can change for somebody's life. So there have been multiple of those stories in Akanksha that I connect with, and that's been what we've been doing for almost 20 plus years. Now, when you do it in a very small, very protected environment, and you have multiple other resources, one again believes that this is possible in a given setup. This is possible in an Akanksha school. But this is not possible at a scale level. This is not possible when you talk about from 26 to 250 schools. And that is where, again, we said, okay, let's look at that. Like, it's not from a challenge, but let's look at what we believe in Akanksha works at a scale level. And about 3 years ago, we started working with 2 municipal corporations with 250 schools. And we said, what we have learned as foundations from the skills, knowledge, or values, and the way of working and how a teacher can interact, how a parent can interact with a child can change. Let's look at these schools and see if we can, change that. And last 3 years with Pimpri Chinchwad Municipal Corporation and Nagpur as a starting point, we've been able to see some of those preliminary changes and positive outcomes. While we're working in multiple things, while we started working with a few of the strands and say leadership development, English as second language, ECC, those were individual strands. But as we progress, we realize school as a unit makes a lot of difference, and that is where the work really comes together, because school has to work as a one unit with culture, with again the experience that the children will have in terms of the learning. So one of the things that I would love to share in the conversation here is how English as second language has changed a lot of the beliefs, or a lot of we've been able to challenge a lot of how children learn, what do they learn, and how English can also become one of the focus areas. And what Shreya, you are mentioning about project-based learning or skill-based learning, and the pedagogy that the teacher can use can make a lot of difference in how children learn. So at the end, it's not about always what you learn is important, and but how you learn is very important. If you're able to teach children how to learn something, that can make a lot of difference, and that is where one of our learnings has been. So
Great.
that's
Thank you, Jayshree. I think you brought up some points which go beyond 21st century skills as we talk about them usually, which is the idea of how do you learn, how to use language differently. I would like to call on Eshwar now to share a bit about the work that they're doing and what future readiness means there.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Yeah, so I'm Eshwar and I work with Inqui-Lab Foundation. We work on nurturing problem solving and innovation skills in students. We are based out of Telangana, and we primarily work with government schools and residential schools in Telangana. And so we have two main programs. Think and Make is an in-person program. It's an intensive weekly program where students engage on working with real-world problems, coming up with ideas, building prototypes, and sharing the solutions. And in the online, there's also an online program that we work with multiple state governments, where we provide a platform for students to showcase their ideas, like identify local community problems and share their innovations around that. And so far, I think I had an interesting conversation with one of our mentors recently, and he was talking about the 21st century skills, for example. And if you look at individual skills, so he was mentioning that most of these skills have always been relevant, just that they're not really 21st century skills alone. They're like necessary in when has communication not been important, or when has creativity not been important. It's just that they have become more prominent in the 21st century because of the second word which is there in our webinar, which is the future readiness, right? Like, so to be ready for the future, so we'll have to know the future. So which I don't think we can confidently say what future is going to look like. And to be ready, I don't think we are even ready for the next tweet by Trump. Um, so we are all sort of figuring out what future readiness means, trying to guess what the future would look like, and then sort of planning what skills are needed or might be needed based on that. If you look at the World Economic Forum's future skills reports, it has changed multiple times in the last 3-4 years. So that's the rate at which the future is changing, or we are expecting it to change. So I would agree with Jayshree, Sreya, what they've spoken about, some of the crucial skills, and we are trying to balance our curriculum around that. So as far as if students will be ready for the future, we honestly don't know, but we are hoping they will. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Eshwar. And can I now call in Samyak to share a bit about their work?
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me in this panel. I'm representing Involve, one of the co-founders there. And at Involve, what we are seeing is that how students can really not just be a passive recipient of the education process, but actively be involved in each and every process. And that is what we are saying, that how can they have agency in not just in classrooms, but also in their schools, in their communities. They are not just receiving what others are telling, but actually co-creating the solutions along with adults is what Involve is sort of focusing on. For us at Involve, and now after so many amazing responses, I'm thinking that uh, right now what I think future of education would be is where students are actually thoughtful, where students are not just thinking about themselves but also about others, where students are conscious about their actions. I'm definitely sure that these skills, which are a part of 21st century skills, communication, collaboration, all of these are very critical, or all are very essential. But I think at this point of time, given how things are happening in the world, multiple wars and everything, I think we just want the students to be a better human, a better individual. And that is where I think at Involve we will strive ourselves to be, that how can students really work with people who are in the decision making process, and really make decisions which are taking the world towards a much more, I would say, empathetic world, towards a much more caring world. And that I right now think is very, very crucial.
Very, very interesting perspectives, I think, and all are agreeing to this idea of how we need to maybe go beyond just saying what future ready is and trying to explain it, but also just thinking about what it just means to be human. and can we instill those values that we believe are core to our human nature. Thank you so much, Samyak, for sharing that. I'm going to jump a little bit to the crux of the conversation of today, which is evidence. And I would invite you all to share a little bit about the work that you've done in the past years. What evidence have you seen generated or generated yourselves through the studies that you might have done that uh, kind of help us get some evidence of this belief of what future ready skills can mean and how they can be created, and how they can be instilled in students. So, talk a little bit to the evidence that you've generated and what work you've done in that process of generating evidence. Um, I'll hand it over to maybe Samyak if you want to go first and let us and share with us what work you'll have been doing.
Sure, sure, sure. I think when I told about how we are imagining students as co-creators, one of the program that we do is around peer learning, that how students can actually support other students in the learning process. And in this way, not just learn the academic skills, but also other relevant skills that are important as well, where they're able to support other friends as well, and sort of improve the learning outcome that we talk about also. One of the recent evidences that we have collected was in Bhagalpur district of Bihar, where we worked with about 178 schools. It was a survey of 178 schools where we did a RCT kind of study, randomized control trial study, where we had about 82 schools which were treatment and 96 schools which were controlled. And the idea was for us to see that where the program is running, like if given all the other interventions are similar, if peer learning as an intervention is introduced in other treatment schools, what is the change that happens in multiple such parameters? And in this study, we were fortunate to have students, PhD students from Harvard, Columbia, to join us and imagine this entire study. It's a 2-year study. We have recently finished our first year right now, and we have seen some amazing results. Which a lot of us, even for us also, it was sort of shocking at some levels. And when I say shocking, it is happily shocking. Uh, so we were definitely sure that students do improve their rigor in academic learning, and we were able to see that happening. So close to zero point 0.2 standard deviation is the difference that we were able to see in treatment schools with respect to controlled schools. We were able to see that students are now asking more questions. They are much more comfortable asking questions to each other. They're reaching out to their friends when in doubt. And when I said the shocking part, I think for me, one of the recent study evidence that came out also was that students were less anxious of learning right now, less anxious about their mathematics, because now they had their friends, their peers, who were actually helping them out, and then they become much more comfortable with the entire learning process. And that is a change, a beautiful change, evidence that we were able to capture all through qualitative and quantitative assessments. Like we were able to put out questions for students, for teachers, and everyone, and we were able to see this change. We were also able to witness that more and more students were coming regularly to schools now, and this was more qualitative, where the teachers were saying that now students feel much more comfortable coming to schools. And for us, all of this is very critical because we have been trying to solve a lot of these problems using multiple methods. But I think just imagining or seeing students as a way to solve these problems was not something done at a large scale. And that was a huge shift in focus for us, that how can we not just see students as recipients, but also as co-creators. And when we started seeing that, we saw such amazing change. And we were also able to do that at large scale, but also with minimal cost, because there was no extra resources. It was just the structure and the way of learning that was modified, and that I think gives us a hope that how can we really involve students at multiple spaces.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Very
I hope.
interesting. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting findings. I think I definitely have more follow-up questions for you, Samyak. But I'm going to go to Shreya now. And Shreya, if you can share some evidence from the work you've been doing.
Sure. Uh, yes. So again, like I was saying, so the project-based learning intervention, we have been running it across different geographies. Maybe what I'll highlight today is some evidence that we have collected from our Bihar study. So in Bihar, project-based learning is being implemented in around 29,000 middle schools. These are all government schools. And so for our evidence collection, we again have like a mixed method where we use a combination of, third-party annual assessments and our internal, more regular monitoring data. But with respect to a third-party annual assessment, we also do a lot of, student level annual tests just to see whether, like, how they are progressing across certain important skills or certain important learning outcomes that we're trying to target through our lesson plans and through our intervention. So the most recent study which came out this year, which happened across 186 sample schools, showed significant growth or gains that students had. So in grade 6, we had an effect size of around 0.29, which is almost equivalent to 1 year of schooling. But what was more interesting is across grades 7 and 8, there were higher gains, almost up to 2 years of schooling, which means that so grade 7 and 8, if we technically see, are recipients of our PBL program for the second year now. And grade 8, in fact, is our recipient for the third year now. So we are seeing the more consistently they are able to, engage with this kind of learning experience in the classrooms, the higher the gains are. So in a typical school year, you would have around, 12 to 15 points of gains. But in grade 7 and 8, what we observe this year is it is almost double the amount. So this is obviously like very clear evidence that students, the more consistently they have been engaging with this kind of method, they have been been able to show greater achievements in certain skills. And this has also obviously shifted the perspective among teachers a lot, where as part of these assessments, we also ask teachers about what has been their point of view about like whether they have seen any sort of qualitative shifts or behavioral shifts in students. And here also consistently teachers have reported, like across the year, we can just see like uh, more teachers are saying that more students are now asking questions. Like students are now getting the hang of how to work collaboratively, sort of get out of that mindset of I'll just do my work and I just want to focus on my project. But here, because we just by the design of the intervention, they are allowed and they are sort of encouraged to sort of work in groups. So that has really shown a lot of positive change according to even how teachers are perceiving change within their students, which is in fact also encouraging teachers to really think about project-based learning, not just in terms of what we give them, but also what they can do beyond what they have been provided with. So that has been really encouraging.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Shreya. I just had one quick follow-up. The gains that you mentioned, were these in the academic end, or did you all also do some measurement of the 21st century skills or the future ready skills?
No, the gains I mentioned were on the academic end. So these were corresponding to the learning outcomes and the core competencies which were related to their grade level.
Got it. Understood. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing, Shreya. And I will now invite Eshwar to share evidence from the work that they've been doing.
Yeah. Thanks, Shreya and Samyak. I think like they both have covered a lot of things that we are also seeing in our work. I think one of the main core tenets of our program is peer-based learning or student-led learning, right? So most of our curriculum is executed by the students. And that's something that we have been able to challenge over a period of time. For example, because we work at the intersection of problem solving and innovation, and most people look at that and they picture a scientist alone, right? And it's mostly how can you get students to teach science when they don't have any basics themselves, is the question we have. And so the second part of it is also the longer you do these things, I think what Shreya was saying, that you see larger gains in grade 8 or like third year of their intervention. I think that also we have seen that year 1 and year 2, if you compare, ours is a 2-year program and we're working on a longer program as well. We have seen larger gains in year 2. And most of this we were observing in our initial years. And recently, we also worked with researchers from Stanford University to get an RCT done on our first 2 years of intervention with social welfare residential schools, where we have seen a lot of surprising results. But the primary thing is that it's a student-led program, and we were able to show that significant gains in innovation, problem solving, and other 21st century skills are possible without teacher interventions, right? And second, also, we were able to show that the gains are across the board. It is not your top 10% or 25% who are doing well in the program. In fact, one of the major findings in the program is that uh, students who you would consider systematic innovators, right? Like basically students who are able to explore more and get more gains in the test that we do. Actually, the systematic innovators are much higher in the second half, the bottom 50% of the classroom than in the top half. The growth shown by students who don't do academically well in innovation, problem solving skills was much higher. And that's one other surprising thing that like at scale we were able to see. Like,
Very interesting. I think something we intuitively also understand that academics is not enough. And I think your findings have shown that it is not the right or the only way of measuring student growth. Thank you, Eshwar. Again, questions for you as well, but I'm going to go to Jayshree first and then I'll come back to you. Jayshree, if you want to share a bit about what Akanksha Foundation has been doing in terms of evidence.
Sure. So from the various strands of work, I'm just going to focus on one strand as English as second language that we've been working on, especially in the early grades. And connecting to what Shreya said, in a second and a third year, you start to see significant shifts in the learning outcomes as well of the students. But first, I'll talk about the adults, the teachers themselves. For them, the learning has shown a significant shift as well, not in terms of their content, but a lot of the focus on language acquisition has been, or teaching English as second language has been on pedagogy, where you give students the agency through peer learning, through group work, through letting them really use the learning materials on their own and giving them that ownership. Also, the classroom libraries to be used by the students. So in all of these aspects of pedagogy that we believe, where students need to have their voice and their choice, and you do that through multiple ways. So for younger children, then the teachers can adopt and adapt based on what the needs of the students are. So that shift in the teachers' practices, we've been able to see almost 17 to 20% of teachers shifting from level 1 to level 2. This is done by Quality Council of India. It's a third-party evaluation that Pimpri Chinchwad has adopted. And third-party assessor, when they are looking at teacher practices shifting over a period of time, and when the teacher is implementing a lot of these, that gives us more, hope and confidence that this will become part of how children will learn and how teacher will teach. So that is, I think, one part of the evidence that I think can stay for a longer time. In terms of the students, both internal and external. So again, we have our internal monitoring or mechanisms of observation and support, where you see students are a lot more confident. They're expressing, they're sharing, there's a lot more joy in the classroom. There's a lot more conversation in the classroom rather than a teacher talking, the students talking. There's a lot of conversation. The students are talking in the classroom. I think that is where, when all of us are, kind of keeping that at the center of all of the outcomes that we want to look for, it's not just the knowledge but it's also the skills, whether it's communication, it's collaboration, all of these are visible in the classroom. And the specific learning outcomes based on the third party, that's again the lowest, whatever academically performing students moving to the highest, and the students being at a great level, not just in English, that is a language, but the transferable skills of how to learn a particular subject or a language to other subjects. So the same batch of students has shown a significant shift in both their primary language, their mother tongue, as well as the other language. So the skills being transferable are very promising to see that it's not a particular content. So that's been another evidence. And all of this is both internal and external. So we haven't gotten into like a research study except for ID Insight, where we're looking at the process for the entire project. But specifically for this component, the QCI data, both on the student learning outcomes as well as the internal observation, is both helping us see the evidences of the work.
It's very interesting. I think that you're looking at teachers as well. It's something that a lot of people tend to miss when they do outcome mapping and measurement. But it's such a key player in our system. And I'm very happy to hear that you all are doing some work in that space as well. Thank you so much for sharing, Jayshree. If I can just bring in Eshwar for a minute, and Eshwar, if you can share a little bit about the RCT that you spoke about, or the work that you're doing in terms of evidence gathering. What methods are being used currently for that evidence gathering that the audience can learn about? I think a lot of them shared different tools that they're using, but if there's something that you can share with us.
Right. So I think we are using sort of a mix of real world tests as well as standardized tests, right? So the first thing to consider is also that when it comes to skills like creativity, empathy, collaboration, critical thinking and problem solving, and especially innovation in a school setting, there are not a lot of standardized measures that exist. So we work with the researcher to sort of bring in tools from different contexts. I'll just share one example of like how we measured innovation itself. So we did it in 3 different ways. So one of them was through the lab in the field game, or the lemonade stand game, where this is borrowed from the multi-armed bandit problem, which is prevalent in the business context. So it's a way to test if how learners hold up in an uncertain environment. How did they make decisions, right? So we had to simplify that for a school context. For example, this game involves students setting up a lemonade stand or a pani puri stand or an ice cream stand, and they will have different options to do that. Like, for example, do they want to do it in the school or the marketplace, or do they want to? They have to fix the menu for that, the ingredients, the pricing, everything, and this results in hundreds of combinations, right? Each of these combinations result in a profit or a loss statement. So the goal for them is to come up, like maximize their profits. But the game itself tests for how they approach this problem, because the conditions are very uncertain. They don't know what happens with each of these. So this is the gamified version, and this is where how they explore and also how they exploit. It's based on 2 different principles. One of them is for an innovator or an entrepreneur, you need to be able to explore a wide variety of approaches before fixing on something. And then once you identify an optimal condition, then how do you further optimize your, like how do you exploit that particular situation, a combination alone? So this is one specific example of exploration, tinkering, and risk taking, and all these things are measured. In the real world, we also looked at, because students actually identify problems and come up with ideas to solve them. So they were put in front of a jury, a virtual jury, where almost every student team, 1,800 teams across 80 schools, submitted their ideas, and they were independently evaluated based on a rubric on value addition and all of that. And top teams, again, we did a Shark Tank style pitch with real world investors on their ideas also. So these are the 3 different ways just in which innovation alone was sort of tested. Do they hold up in the classroom standardized setting and the gamified method, and also in the real world setting where their actual ideas are being put? Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Eshwar. I think they are very, like Shreya said, very interesting ways of looking at 21st century skills and actually seeing them in practice and measuring from there. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to move the conversation a little forward and talk a little bit about what I deeply care about, which is that we all generate evidence, but are the right people looking at it? And then what what do we do so that the right people take the right actions with the evidence that we've generated? So if you can talk a little bit about what evidence, how have you actually disseminated this evidence within the system, and how it is being currently used? And if you have any examples of someone who's actually used your evidence to make a change, whether it's a parent, a student, a teacher, or a policymaker, that will be super helpful. I'm going to start with Jayshree, ma'am, if you want to get started.
Yeah, I think every adult around the child needs to look at the evidence in a more constructive way. And how do I use this to help the child better, right? So that's the atmosphere we need to create. And you already said number of people, the students themselves need to see that. But when you're looking at very young children, reaching that stage where the teacher is able to have that conversation is yet to set up in the system. But that's an aspiration. I'll start with that. Definitely parent looking at the child's report card more from a constructive way. So again, PCMC, we kind of requested that if every child could have a report card and a teacher and a parent could sit and look at it in a more positive way, and also have the printed report card right from kindergarten for the children to have their hand. This was something new. Even having that data visible, looking at the school leaders and teachers looking at this data on a regular basis with support, because technology, looking at data and synthesizing that is not an easy task, just because it's never been done before. It's new. So the newness of that can be challenging. And so supporting that in your regular conversations, in the workshops, in the trainings, and embedding that as outcomes where we are, and setting goals accordingly, and looking at it into breaking down into which are the outcomes or which are the skills that the students are struggling with, and how do we embed that in our conversation. So that's the lens with which it's been done on an ongoing basis. However, it cannot stop there. Like you said, there probably has to the policymakers and the bureaucrats and the officers need to look at it again from a very different lens, that what is working, what is not working, and whatever is working, how do we take it to a larger number? And looking at the success of grade 1 and 2 in the first 2 years, they were very clear that the shift in the pedagogy and the support to students in giving an agency of learning really helps. So this has now been moved to, and this came from the teachers as well. Grade 1 to 5, all of them are now participating in the workshops with over 80% attendance. It's come from bottom-up demand that we want to be part of this and we want to learn how to do this. And at the same time, co-creating student learning materials with the system themselves. So, but one is co-creating, but investing the money and the effort to print these resources and give it to 25,000 students in their hand to have that agency of practicing when they need to, is another policy shift. So data needs to be looked at, and each one will have a different purpose. And I think here, this one example, I can say that we've been able to touch all stakeholders, except for the younger children. We still have to work on how to really get them to see their own data and reflect and develop those skills. So I hope that clarifies.
It does. It does. Thank you so much for sharing. I think you touched on all stakeholders as well. Shreya, if you want to come in and talk a bit about the study that you did with in Bihar, for example, how is it being used currently? How is the evidence that's generated being used? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we also have had sort of like a similar journey that Jayshree highlighted. So in terms of the data from the third party assessments that we have, so when we report it to say, so we work at the state level. So when we report it to the state level, and particularly bodies like the SCRT who are anchoring this program, they like one is we obviously disseminate these third party assessment reports. We also try to also bring in more field level and ground level insights from the field visits that our own team members also do. So what that has led to is, one is they are also seeing that we are trying to be as transparent as we can with the data, and we're trying to also move the ownership of data management to the system. So even in terms of, say, PBL, the way it is currently being disseminated in Bihar is through something we are calling micro improvement projects on a government-owned platform called Diksha. So the state has complete ownership of this data. So they have complete ownership, and they can access, say, like in a given month, or like for a particular projects, how many schools, how many teachers have been able to do it? Have they sort of uploaded any sort of evidences to the portal to sort of say that they have done a project? So one is we are trying to see whether we can sort of embed this sort of data ownership and data oriented mindset within the system through leveraging their own like system level data, because the system already collects a lot of data. So we're trying to ensure that that data is being used, and that data is being looked at. And also even the third party assessment data that we share, what that has led to, the culmination of all of this is, so the first year when we started with science, like PBL for science in Bihar, and those were limited to a few select learning outcomes. And then next year, like after looking at the overwhelming response and sort of the increase in student engagement that was being reported from the ground, the state actually said, can we also look at extending it to like all the learning outcomes that are currently there in our syllabus? And now we have also, I mean, 2 years down the line, we have also extended it to other subjects like math, and now we are also in talks of co-developing this again with this system for other subjects like social science. So that is one shift that has happened sort of at the policy level at this state. Another thing, like just one last thing that I want to add very quickly is this data orientedness has sort of seeped in other aspects too, where last year SCRT Bihar themselves have done like a baseline and endline study in collaboration with TIS to sort of understand how project-based learning is happening, and whether that is leading to any shift in teacher practices, whether that is leading to any shift in student level outcomes. So from us doing third party evaluation, this is also the system themselves bringing in academic partners and trying to evaluate their own efforts, which is like a huge shift and a like huge win that we see, where they are also thinking about how we can use data and how we can use evidence.
Great, thank you so much. I think you brought up very good points around ownership and transparency. And that kind of builds this confidence as well in the system to be open to get evaluated and get academicians inside. I think that's a very big win for sure. I'm going to take a bit of a pause here and see if we have any questions from the audience, because I can keep going. But I'm going to pause here and ask the audience to post any questions that they might have, and we can, and if you have it for a specific panelist, please make sure you mention the name. Just take a couple of minutes for the questions to come in. You can type them in the chat. Okay. While questions are coming, I can't see the audience, so I don't know whether someone's typing or not. But I would like to invite Samyak to maybe share a bit about how you all are thinking about the RCT dissemination, and then we have a question for Jayshree that we will take. Yes, Samyak.
Thank you. I think very similar to what others have told. Have not take a lot of time, but yeah, we have used that the evidences for the department to talk about how when we see it from the students' lens and how do we need to co-create along with the students. One more thing that we have sort of worked is for the team as well, internally, to really motivate them and show them that okay, what all the effects that you all are doing, how it is really resulting in this type of outcome. And that we have done, even though the result was for Bihar program and everything, because all of our programs has similar components. We talked about that for our Bangalore team or UP team as well. And that has been really helpful because now they have that confidence. Okay, if the similar thing is working over there, I am also sure that we will be able to see the similar outcomes over here. And that has resulted, I would say, in a much stronger buy-in from the team itself. A lot of times we feel कि हाँ okay ठीक है team है तो वो काम करेंगे ही करेंगे and all of that, but that motivation of going to schools and pushing themselves has, and I think the data has really helped us to do that very effectively. And second, it has also helped us to open the doors to have conversation at a larger level as well. So, like in Bihar, we were able to talk with the primary education director over there. We've had some conversation at the Ministry of Education as well, using primarily the data. And even a lot of funders have now started seeing us very differently. They were like, okay, all of that you all are doing is definitely good. But now the supporters, the funders have been more curious, okay, what else it is talking about. And specifically when we talked about that students are now going to schools more regularly and the anxiety part, I think these two evidences has been just most curiously people have sort of shown interest in how this has happened. Okay, we thought it, but how have you all measured it as well? And what it is saying, how can we go and talk to the department about it? I think that has been, so we are also leveraging certain insights which are not so easily sort of thought through and putting more efforts into over there and putting that as a data to talk to these people. So I think these are various
Thank
different
you
ways, I
for
would say.
sharing that, because the moment you start collecting evidence is when it triggers a lot of thinking within the team as well as to how do we do this better. So I think that is also the power of evidence and being able to put some context around the work that they're doing in terms of numbers and language. Thank you so much. I'm just going to take one question, which is for Jayshree, and then we will close this panel because we are at time. Jayshree, there's one question for you around teacher professional development. If we can keep it short, but if you can just talk and to Farid's question.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short, but I'll have to answer it in two parts. One is Akanksha schools, 26 schools, we have our locus of control. So new teachers on a different track and experienced teachers on a different track, but everybody needs to be learning, continuously. And just setting that structure right from the beginning, that there is a one-time support and then there's an ongoing support through classroom observation, feedback, having regular courses, once a month professional development program. That's the structure we set up in Akanksha schools as well. Now, taking the structure to government and 240 plus schools in a given corporation, the way we've been able to do this is, one is make this as a need based, so gap analysis and bottom up what they think their needs are. Second one is have a cadence of trainings in a calendar, academic calendar, which is done right at the beginning of the year. And then the third one is to have, again, some system where there is a one-time training as well as an ongoing support through classroom observation feedback. So based on the similar principles, we're trying to do this. And in terms of catering to the needs, get as many experts and CSOs and local partners to contribute. And so there is a variety of learning, just the way we would like to learn from different sources. The teachers also like to learn from different sources. So creating that culture and resources. So I think I'll just pause here because there's a lot more to it. Happy to connect one-on-one to talk more about, what and how we do it in Akanksha as well.
Thank you so much, Jayshree. I'm going to actually close this panel now. I think there was very, very interesting learnings. We definitely learned that there are many different ways of doing assessment or evidence collection of future ready skills. We also learned that there is a need to define what future ready looks like for us, and each person thinks of it differently. And we spoke a little bit about how it is necessary to disseminate this evidence and provide ownership to the people who should be holding that data and using it. Thank you so much for sharing so openly and so clearly all of the work that you all have been doing. It was really lovely, and I hope Pratibha gives us chance in the future to talk about this more. I'm going to hand this over to Pratibha to speak to us about some announcement that she had for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Payal, and to all of the speakers, Jayshree, Samyak, Sreya, and Eshwar, for creating such a lovely space. I think this was just to really spark the conversation around evidence and the future of learning. And I think there is a whole lot more of these conversations yet to emerge. We already have such a large ecosystem at Shikshagra who is working on exactly some of the questions that we sparked thoughts on today. And that is also why we realized that as an ecosystem, we would need to create more such spaces for organizations, individuals to come together and really showcase, share evidence, and truly articulate what it means when we talk about future of education and learning. And it is in that spirit, like you said, Payal, that we are very, very, very excited to announce the offline version of our Shiksha Samvaad Evidence Edition, which will happen in October this year. It will happen in Bangalore, and we are inviting organizations, individuals to share their evidence-based approaches to transforming learning for our students, to transforming public schools in India. And we will soon release the call for case studies, papers, posters, and we hope to see all of you at the conference in October and create spaces much like this one today, but also be able to really network, talk about this in person, and therefore be more excited about the work that we're doing going forward. Thank you so much again, everyone who joined in, all of the speakers, all of the panelists. Thank you for taking your time to do this on a Friday evening. I wish you all a great weekend ahead and see you all soon in October for more conversations on evidence for the future of learning. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.